It's so easy for us to think about the church and then draw some immediate parallels to sports. I don't know if you're watching this, if you love sports or not, but at least you can appreciate some of the attributes that comes from sports. In many cases, sports, it's a team sport. It's not just about the individual. And all of us can talk about some of the greats. In basketball, we could talk about Michael Jordan, or we could have the debate about LeBron James. We could talk about the Kobe Bryants or the Magic Johnsons. We could talk about the Larry Birds. In golf, we could talk about the Tiger Woods, or we could talk about the Jack Nicklauses. In football, we could talk about Tom Brady, or we could talk about so many other people in that sport. We could talk about baseball and Babe Ruth, or to bring it more current day, we could talk about Barry Bonds or Pete Rose or any of those other folks. At the end of the day, those players may have been great, but they could not win championships alone. Even Tiger Woods, you say, well, he's out there and he's hitting the putt and he's hitting the golf club alone, but he would tell you that he's got coaches and he's got team members and he's got folks that are helping him and coaching him up, that he has a medical staff that helps with those surgeries on his back and so many other things to get him what he needs. Well, guess what? Pastors, ministry leaders, church leaders, you got a team. And it is best for you to use that human capital and to engage that human capital to the best of your ability. It is to your credit. It is to your success that when your team does well, the church will do well. And so I want to give you 4 questions today. I want to give you 4 questions that every leader, every pastor, every ministry worker, every executive pastor should be asking your team. Here's the first one. Very sincerely, how are you? Now, you're listening authentically for their response. And it's not just how are you today. It's how are you? How are you emotionally? How are you mentally? How are you physically? How are you spiritually? How are you financially? How are you doing? How's your educational pursuits and goals going? Right? How are you? That's the first question. Question number 2, how is your work? Literally, you want to ask them, how is your work? What do you feel have been some of your greatest wins over the last 6, 9 months or 12 months? What have been some of your losses? What have been some of your bigger stresses? What about your goals? Are you moving towards your goals, or do you feel like you're just stagnated right now? Do you feel like you're just kind of marking time or buying time? Are there things that you feel like you're having to work around, or do you feel like you're stuck? How is your work? Question number 3, how do you feel about our culture and our leadership? Now, this one gets hard because as a leader, you have to be emotionally healthy enough to hear the truth about this. And as a leader, you have to create a safe environment that everyone's individual genius has space to shine. There's this book that I read a number of years ago called Collective Genius. And in that book, it talked about creating an atmosphere where everyone's genius could thrive and shine. It's an incredible work. And so I want to challenge you, pastor, executive pastor, ministry workers, ministry leaders, create space where your team can feel comfortable sharing their truth, sharing the truth about how they feel about your leadership, whether you're winning or losing as a leader, and about your culture. Here's the 4th and final question. As a leader, you want to ask your team, how can I help you reach your peak performance? Guess what will happen when every member of your team is thriving in their lane, enjoying coming to the team together to work, they're loving walking in their purpose, and they're thriving at their peak performance. Your team, your organization, your church becomes unstoppable.
Church Strategies and Ministry Systems is an executive pastor in the book. It will help pastors, ministry workers, leadership teams, and churches. It released #1 on Amazon in the Christian Church Administration category. Get your copy today everywhere books are sold.